Hey guys, welcome to another video. In this video, we're going to talk about the 40-gallon long Dutch, which a lot of you guys have been waiting for. We'll go over the plants that I put in here as well as the equipment, so check it out. And remember, in this video, I don't really have a plan for how I'm going to lay out the plants and how everything's going to go. The only thing that I know that I do want is a majestic forest of Scarlet Temple. So we'll go with that, and remember, keep that in mind. No plans, just going to plant this sucker, let it grow in, and figure out what we're going to take out, what we're going to trim and stuff like that. Before we go on, if you haven't already seen my sorry state video, then you need to know that this video was recorded over 5 months ago, and I've since then let my tanks go. If you want to know why, you can take a look at that video. But this is for those that have been following along this build. I'll get back to restoring the tank, and yes, I will video that too. So we'll start with the equipment. First, for this tank, we're going to be sporting the Sunsun 302B. This should give me enough flow rate for this tank, as well as for the price. You just can't beat these filters. Now, I have nothing but great luck with them so far in all my tanks. As the flow moves from bottom to top on this filter, the first stage will be my mechanical filtration. I place a coarse pad followed by 3 other fine pads above it. On the second stage of filter, I filled it up with lava rocks. Simple, cheap, and effective. Finally, the filter came with the ceramic rings, so I figured why waste them, I'll just use them. I added them to the third stage level of my filter. I used the mesh bags to contain rings for easier cleaning later on. I completely skipped the chemical filtration as part as it's not needed. As most of you know, I don't normally use chemical filtration on my tank. Final notification and FYI, I filmed this like 5 months ago, so I totally forgot the order of how I filmed this. So you're going to see different stages of the tank as I explain the equipment at least. So try to ignore that part, but we'll get to the planning of the tank and how it's progressed after we go over the equipment. For the inflow and outflow pipes, I opted to set them up on the side of the tank so the flow pushes out across the length of the tank. I find that the spray bar hookup this way works great with my tank. It distributes the nutrients and the CO2 pretty well around the tank this way. Hooking up the rest of the filter was easy. I just attached the hoses, pre-filled the filter, plugged it in, and primed it by pushing the top of the large button a few times, and off it went. Simple and effective way to start a siphon. For lighting on this tank, I went with the Fresh and Planet LED 2.0. Now, as most of you know that follow me on this channel, I'm a huge Phoenix fan, but I wanted to give Fluval a try, and Corey from Aquarium Co-op was having a sale, and I figured I'd throw some support his way. After a couple weeks of using this, I realized it wasn't enough light for the plants I'm growing in this tank, and went ahead and purchased another one. Now, it's too much light, but the good thing about the Fluval Fresh and Planet is that you can adjust the brightness of the output. All in all, I like it, but there are some drawbacks or uselessness to some features without a controller, which you can buy, but then it starts to get costly. Again, I will stick with Phoenix, as I don't need to pay for bells and whistles. I just need the light to go on and off when the timer says so, and the ability to control the intensity either by dimming it or having risers for the light. For the CO2 setup, I have a glass in-tank diffuser. This works great, but I will swap it out for an inline diffuser later. I have it now, but I haven't installed it yet. The source is a 5-pound CO2 tank hooked up to a cheap regulator with two-way split. One goes to the 40-gallon tank and the other goes to the Iwagumi tank sitting on top of the same shelf. I'm running around 1 bubble per second. The bubble counter that's going crazy right now is the one that's going to the Iwagumi tank. At the time of the recording, I had just flooded that tank from doing a dry start. I've had this piece of wood for years now from my previous aquarium setup, so it's about time I use it. We'll super glue Java ferns to the bottom portion of the stump. For the upper part of the stump, I used Java moss and glued them into a couple of nooks and crannies, as well as the top of the stump itself. This should give it a nice wild growth feel to it. Now let's place the hardscape in the tank. If you look at the piece here, you'll notice that the bottom curves up underneath. I want to actually place this in the sand and prop it up enough to form a small cave-like feature. This would give it a good hiding place for the Corydalis that I want to get later for this tank. It was a bit difficult to place, but then I took a nice looking piece of rock I picked up a few months ago and made it prop up against the wood to give it some height. I also made it jut out of the sun so it pointed along with the direction of the piece of wood so that it gives it that certain flow to it. Later I did have to add some rocks underneath to keep that rock pointed up from the sand. Once satisfied, I went ahead and misted the Java ferns and moss to keep it moist while I worked on the rest of the tank. And for the rest of this, it's just me planting randomly like I said before. So we'll just go ahead and let this go and you can see what I plant and just read the labels. But other than that, there's really no rhyme or reason. I just let things grow and I was going to go ahead and move stuff around. But as you know, I never got to that part. But anyways, enjoy. So by this time all the short plants were planted in. Now it's time to go ahead and fill the tank up about halfway or a little more than halfway. I'm not sure what I did, but we're going to put a place so it doesn't disturb the sand and just fill it up. So remember this, I started this tank to see how soil tanks work. I also took clippings from my Dutch 20-gallon tank, which required a lot of EI dosing to just keep it up. When I stopped dosing it, everything thinned out and pretty much died. Okay, so there's a lot of the same plants that was in here that was in the 20-gallon Dutch. This is 5 weeks later, no dosing, CO2, and soil tank. Dustin was not kidding. This stuff is gold. Oh my God, no dosing. And look, the lush growth on this thing. You pump CO2 into this thing, and it'll go on forever. 5 weeks. Look at the pearlweed. Look at the baby tears. Look at those dwarf sag. I've never seen dwarf sag grow that big, okay? Pogo stemons grow slow, but look how bushed out they are, okay? Those dwarf sags is covering out the Blixia. The Blixia's in the back, it's kind of buried away. And of course, the Scarlet Temple grows slow. But all in all, 5 weeks later, here you have it. That's it. Thank you for watching. Remember, if you're new to this channel, hit that subscribe button. If you like this video, please hit that like button. And I'll talk at you guys later. Have fun out there. Have fun with your aquariums. Bye.